Q&A with the new CEO of Jagex.
Hello everyone and welcome to a very special video. I'm your host, Mod Aiza, Lead Community Manager for Old School Runescape, and I'm joined by the wonderful...
I am Mod Yuri, Community Manager for Runescape.
And today we are joined by the one and only Mod North, Jagex's new CEO. Hello Mod North.
Hello again. Hello.
Oh, they're wearing RuneScape shirts.
RuneFest took it out of me for a bit, but I'm good, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, RuneFest.
Is my goat. Do we still like him? Of course we do.
But we're going to break the ice a little bit first. Let's talk about RuneFest. I had a fantastic time personally. How did you find RuneFest, Mod North? Were you there?
I was there, yeah. I mean, I've been at a few of them in the past as well.
I don't really care about his thoughts on RuneFest, honestly. Get to the hard-hitting questions.
Okay, I just want to ask a very generic question of how does it feel to be stepping into the shoes of CEO at Jagex?
Yeah, it's an honor. It's a genuine honor. I've been playing these games for more than 20 years, as I said, and to sort of come full circle and assume responsibility in this way is hard to describe. I'm imminently aware of, or deeply aware of, the responsibility to our players and our people. This is very, very precious ground. It's hallowed earth. And so yeah, I'm just very conscious that this needs to be treated, our games need to be treated with the utmost care and respect, and our communities.
I hate this, bro. I hate how hard they're leaning into the, oh, I know how special this game is to everyone. You know, I'm gonna treat this with respect. Like, we should just assume that you'll do it. Why are you leaning into it so hard, bro? Why are you leaning into it so hard?
Too, obviously.
For sure.
Nice. So you touched on that. So for anyone watching who don't know who you are, for example, can you tell us a little more about your games industry experience, like with Jagex or RuneScape, for example?
Yeah, of course. So as a professional, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So I started my career at Jagex. I didn't go into the investment banking job that I...
As a professional, you mean? Like they haven't sat down and vetted these questions before they asked him? I've not heard these questions before.
I should have gone into. Instead, I went and joined a video games company that I loved, and part of that was to spite the parents who'd been saying, you'll never get a job if you play that game all day. Look at me now, Mum. That said, so that's how I got into the industry. After that, I spent the next few years only working in gaming. So first as an investor, I invested in a bunch of early stage gaming studios to try and create the next big games of the world. After that, I joined a radically different business to Jagex, a business called Huge Games, which is a mobile gaming business, very monetization oriented, entirely different to Jagex and what this company needs.
Just for anyone that doesn't know, this guy worked at a company that specialized in casino games. It's our new CEO, guys. It's our new CEO.
And then, yeah, saw that company through an IPO, did a lot of good work with the players of those games. And then sort of through a winding path, found my way back to Jagex in the last sort of 6 months. So it's amazing to be back.
Yeah.
Just to also clarify the winding path, we went through this guy's LinkedIn. He has gone from working as an angel investor, basically investing in gaming companies. So he, for those that don't know what that is, he would buy portions of companies in exchange, obviously, for money to help them with any funding they needed to get their company going. And he would just give them a whole bunch of money and hope that their business does well so that he can make a profit on it. Then he worked at a company for 4 years that specialized in casino games. Then he job hopped 3 times in 1 year. For those that don't know what that means, there's 2 things. It could mean he's a terrible employee, or more likely, he's being headhunted by other companies and offered more money. And now the previous job to being a CEO at Jagex is he was an advisor at CVC. CVC is the parent company for Jagex. They own Jagex. He worked for CVC before he worked here. So my theory is that he is a corporate shill that is working for Jagex's parent company and is now being placed in the CEO position to do exactly what they want him to do. And what will they want him to do? Make more money for the company.
Well, welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, welcome, exactly that. Okay, so I know a little bit about your background in terms of actual gaming. You've spoke to me a little bit about RuneScape and Old School. You know, claim to be max in RuneScape?
At one point I was. This was before some of the recent 110s, but at one point a couple of years ago I was maxed.
That's a pretty good achievement. And what about old school? So we know we're close to max. What's your total level?
2175.
Wow. Okay, so you are relatively close.
Can you tell that I checked?
You were prepared for this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it's a high total level, sort of in a literal sense, but I'm miles away. I think I'm like high mid 80s on agility, mining, and rune crafting. So I'm about a quarter of the way
You
there.
really saved the best.
Yeah.
for
Fucking
last.
noob, dude.
Exactly.
Actually, a noob.
Good.
That's it. I'm not really a total level skiller kind of guy. I think I'm a PVMer, very casual most of all. I've been a PvPer in the past, but terrible.
Does anyone have his RSN? Let's look up his boss KCs. Let's see if he's really about it. You know what I'm saying? Who's got his RSN?
But now I'm a TOB obsessive.
Awesome. So you know your level. Well, what is your favorite piece of content, would you say?
Yeah, it's got to be Theatre of Blood. It's got to be. Like, I get hard carried every time by the group that I play with.
I thought he was just going to stop at I get hard.
And I always end up being the mage and like freeze in Nilos. But yeah, I love it. For whatever reason, I think that second raid that Old School did has real alchemy in it. I love TOA, I love Chambers, but for whatever reason, Top's the one for me.
Oh, I like it. You speak in my language because it's also my favorite raid.
We
by a
will
long
raid at
mile.
some point. We'll
We
do
will.
that.
So you fancy at some point maybe we'll jump on stream and showcase
I'm going to
your
regret
skills?
saying it, but yes, absolutely. Let's
You heard
do
it here
that.
first.
Look for his exact level, 2175 with high top KC.
TOB carries.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Okay, so a little bit of the fun stuff out of the way. There's some pretty serious questions. We
Here we go.
had the announcement go out on Tuesday
Here we
just
go.
this week, and with there we asked the community what questions that they might have for you based on.
Community questions are always so fucking weak, bro. Not a single person is going to ask why this guy had 7 jobs in the past 3 years. I promise you.
The announcement. Now, some of our players are wondering why now has the CEO suddenly changed, and more specifically, was that tied to, quite frankly, some of the backlash that we saw from the players regarding the conjoint analysis
it
around
wasn't.
membership?
No, not even remotely. These changes, to change the CEO of a business like this, it takes months of prep and timing. It's not an easy thing to do, and it's definitely not a fast thing to do.
It takes months of prep and timing. Hang on, let me just double check. When was the backlash? About... Yeah, it was exactly 2 months ago. It was 2 months ago.
And so changes like this don't happen overnight and in response to single items like this. Actually, my respect for Mod Pips, as you've already heard, is huge. He managed this business as a CEO for 8 years. He'd been part of the team for 14. He took a 20-year-old point-and-click browser MMO to its greatest player numbers ever late last year, alongside, obviously, your fantastic teams. But what he's done is not to be knocked, and I can't think of anyone else who's done something similar. So no, this is definitely not a knee-jerk reaction to anything that's happened in the past few months.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for clarifying. And I'd just like to, if possible, another difficult one, potentially, talk more specifically around that conjoint membership analysis. Is there anything that we feel players should know about right now? Anything that they may expect
Here we
to hear from in
go.
the future?
Yeah, that conjoint analysis was a total misstep, like just total misstep. I've been a player for 20 years, and my first feeling seeing that conjoint go live was, that was a mistake. That's not who we are. Ultimately, I was a board member at the time, total responsibility for that alongside the rest of the management team and the board. However,
Okay, so he goes, hey, that was fucked. Also, but it was kind of my decision.
it was a mistake, and I think we're 100% clear on that. It shouldn't need to be said out loud, but there will never be microtransactions in old school RuneScape.
Clip it. Clip that. Clip that.
Ever. This will never be an advertising-driven business. That's not who we are. I'm aware of that. Management's aware of that. The team's aware of that, and the players are definitely aware of that. But I just, for the sake of clarity, total misstep.
That's an
lines in
insane
the sand.
commitment.
Okay.
That is one of the craziest things I've ever heard a CEO say. Like, to say never.
Great. Again, thank you for the extra clarity. And there's one more thing I'll press you about on this matter, and that is around improvements. One of the things that came out of that was a perceived notion for value when players are paying for their membership, especially around...
Sorry. Adam's just gone, have you heard of Elon Musk? I'm not sure it's the craziest. You're right. Hey, my fault. You're right.
services that we offer them. Is there anything that players can expect to learn more about on that?
Yeah, good question. Absolutely, yes. So we will be publishing a roadmap for customer service improvements in April, so in 1 month. But you can expect to see a lot of what you might expect to see. Things like more human interaction in the process, transparency of ticket management processes, some self-serve functionality, all of the things that you'd really hope to see from a best-in-class live game customer service production.
Self-serve player support. Bro, I'm going to be able to approve my own fucking ban request, bro. That's crazy.
It's not all going to drop overnight, but there is a real clear process, and we're going to treat this just like a large piece of content that's rolling out, whether it's Zaya, Varlamore, or Sailing, and check in with the community procedurally and frequently with status updates. So yeah, April.
Amazing.
Fantastic. That's great. So, as our CEO, what is your, would you say, is your vision for Jagex, RuneScape, old school RuneScape? What would you say is your 10-year plan, for example, between 5 to 10 years?
10-year plans to grow the communities of both, and it really is that simple. So Jagex as a business is fantastic at maintaining and building and growing old school RuneScape and RuneScape 3 and shortly RuneScape Survival. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But actually, what's closest and nearest to my heart is taking old school RuneScape and RuneScape 3, not meddling with the formula, making them incrementally better with the most fantastic designers, I think, on earth for these games. I'm looking to many of your respective teams here. I think if I get out of the way and empower and endorse and support those teams to continue doing what they've been doing, particularly in the case of old school, and we'll talk a bit more about the differentiations between each shortly, I suspect. Get out of the way, empower them to do what they do best, deliver fantastic content that players want for years on end, and we supplement that with a bit of hype building. I actually think there's no reason why these communities can't grow healthily for the next sort of 5-10 years. And to be honest, in the case of RuneScape 3, I think we need to think longer than 10 years. It needs to be 25, 50 years in the future. There's no reason why these games can't have another 25 years in the case of a game like RuneScape 3. We just need to make sure that game, its economic model, its integrity is set up for another 25 years of sustainable, healthy growth.
He memorized this shit well, I can't lie. Get him on stage at RuneFest. Literally, like, everything he's saying should get people excited about being a RuneScape player. But it's all fucking bullshit. We've heard it all before 100 times over. And like, are we just going to keep falling for it? He's literally rehearsed all this shit. And he's saying exactly what everyone wants to hear.
Yeah, that's it. There's a little exclamation mark, remind me, 25 years.
Mike.
So you remind us.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. So, elephant in the room within the community has been...
Why did it... Don't talk about me like that, Ieza. What the fuck?
Your previous roles. And you mentioned yourself working at Huge. Now, I'm not going to lie, I've personally seen many players with a large amount of skepticism behind your intentions coming into Jagex, fearing the worst case being hugely aggressive monetization across both games. What's your response to that?
There will never be microtransactions in old school RuneScape, and RuneScape 3 needs to be less aggressive on monetization in order to build sustainability for the next 25 years. It's as clear as I can be. I've seen firsthand what these hyper-monetizing games on mobile look like. That is not what our games are.
It's crazy, bro.
It's totally incompatible. So while I totally have respect for the skepticism and perhaps cynicism about my background and thinking, oh God, I don't want my community and my game to go in that direction, it will not.
Brilliant.
That's great. So MTX is obviously a very big topic in the RS3 community. We've had a whole mass of questions that have been coming in regarding this. Last year, we had a consultancy questionnaire about MTX to our players. So what can they expect? Has there been any update on this that we can tell our players?
Yeah, good question. So I looked at that consultancy when it went live. I think I responded myself, and I've seen some of the results since. Look, my view on this is we're not in a sustainable holding pattern right now with the way that RuneScape 3 monetizes. That's no secret. The community knows this. It was clear in the feedback. Our internal team knows this, and our team are extraordinary. They care about this game more than you'd believe. They don't want it to be an unsustainable pattern. Players don't want it to be an unsustainable pattern. I don't want it to be an unsustainable pattern. What we need to do is recognize that we're leaning a bit too much on the gas right now, maybe a lot too much, and find a way to come off the gas. It won't be quick. This is a game with 20 years of feature development and interconnected systems within it that are all tied into our microtransaction ecosystem. That's not an easy thing to unpick, and so it won't be a mic drop moment where everything sort of gets switched off and we move forwards. It will be turning the tanker into a direction that guarantees another 25 years of sustainable, healthy operation. I think the quick way to answer it is, we know there is a problem there. I'm personally invested in creating a more healthy game. So yeah, it's going to happen. It will happen.
Great, thank you. I'm sure, a lot of players are going to be wanting to know more about this. So, that's great. Thank you for being honest about it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so what about things that aren't RuneScape or old?
Everything he's saying makes a lot of sense, to be fair. Nothing I've heard yet makes me go, gotcha. Yeah, of course. Like, this guy has had, prior to this, right, before he worked for CVC, the parent company, he had 3 different jobs over the space of 1 year. The guy knows what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? He knows what he's doing. He's being headhunted by these companies because he's good at what he does. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean everything that he's saying isn't horseshit. You know what I mean?
Old school, right? There's a lot of upcoming projects, things that Jagex are working on, especially something like RuneScape Project Survival. How do you feel about
RuneScape. That is absolutely RuneScape. It's not old school, but it is RuneScape. Look, Survival for me is really interesting project. I've been quite lucky. I've played a bunch of the internal builds and some of the alpha test builds as well over the past few months. And the last one, genuinely, a few weeks ago, I was supposed to be spending about an hour just looking through the latest build to check for changes. I spent more than 20 hours playing the game over a weekend. I'm not joking, I swear. Wow. And so I got really hooked, and I think my girlfriend was worried about my health, and about 4 a.m. I sort of trundled into the bedroom, like, still stressing about goblins just destroying my house without giving up too much. I swear, I actually am. I'm really excited. This is one of the first big releases that Jagex has had for a long time now, years, and it's one of the few products that I've seen.
Well, Mudnorth, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today and answer the questions. The transparency has been really appreciated. I've personally really been grateful for the fact that you've been here. I'm sure the players have too. Speaking of transparency, is this something that we should expect more of moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're at our best when the game teams and the community are closest together. I think that needs to continue, and it's going to be one of my jobs to make sure that it does. But ultimately, I think your game teams, you folks on the front line, already do a pretty great job of it. I think what we're doing with player support, announcing the roadmap in April, is a great example of the tone that we'd like to continue to set. But actually, I don't think there's a need to reinvent the wheel on that, to be honest. It's important that the community stays close to the game team, and myself and the rest of the leadership team, we do what we can to enable.
Yeah. Is there anything he could say that would make you believe it? There's only one way I will believe what a Jagex CEO says, and that is if the Jagex CEO is Mod Aiza. That's the only way. You know what I'm saying? It's, he may be lying, but he's empathetic and not doing any political talk to avoid difficult topics. Time to see if he proves it. I would love to be proved wrong here. You know what I'm saying? I'd love to be proved wrong. But the fact of the matter is, this is the last 10 years of Jagex, guys. Insight Venture Partners owned Jagex from 2012 to 2016. Hong2 bought Jagex in 2016 and held till 2020. The Zongji Holdings acquired Hong2 in 2016, so they took over Jagex. Then in 2020, MacArthur Fortune Holdings acquired Jagex. Then in 2021, the Carlyle Group acquired Jagex. Then in 2024, CVC acquired Jagex. In the past 10 years, there have been 6 different owners of this company, all selling the company for a profit. The parent companies don't care what is happening. They don't care what's happening in the game. All they care about is the bottom line. And he's just come onto this interview and said, we care about the players. We're going to try and increase the player base. And that's all good and well. That's all good and well. That's a great long-term strategy. But not a single company in the past 10 years have come in and had a long-term strategy for Jagex. They've come in for a quick buck to resell the company for a profit in 4 or 5 years. You know what I'm saying? So nothing this guy is saying is instilling me with confidence in RuneScape. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think people are going to be playing RuneScape for decades to come because we're all fucking addicted. But I don't think that this guy is going to take it in the direction that we all want it to go in. And for him to say there is never going to be microtransactions in the old school RuneScape is crazy. it's nuts. And I think we need to clip this and come back to it at a later date because I think that's just very, very funny. But yeah, the interview, this is a good interview. He said all of the things that you would want a new CEO to say. And that should be worrying to you. It should be worrying to you that this guy has said exactly the right thing about everything. You know what I mean? It's too perfect. It's too perfect.